Hello, fans, collectors, investors. Welcome back to Iconic Baseball. I'm Iconic Al. It is my privilege today to present number 39 on my countdown. This is quite simply one of the top 10 right-handed pitchers in baseball history. This guy from 1992 to 2009 compiled 83.9 WAR, had a ridiculous 2.93 ERA, an even more ridiculous 1.054 WHIP, and an even more ridiculous 154 ERA+, one of the elite ERA+ numbers in baseball history. He had about a 6 or 7 year stretch of his career from 1997 to 2003 where he was otherworldly, a stretch that may even outdo the great Sandy Koufax. We'll get into that later. But this is a guy who won 3 Cy Young Awards and is beloved in the city of Boston for ending the almost century-long curse of the Bambino back in 2004. I'm talking about the legendary Pedro Martinez.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
En un día bueno, todo se ve relativamente fácil, que estás en comando de todo lo que está pasando en el terreno. Hoy es un día donde tú sabes que la victoria la puedes sentir. Pero esos son los días donde las cosas especiales pasan. I live for this.
October, 8 teams, 1 champion. Watch the World Series on Fox. Don't miss it.
It cannot be overstated how dominant Pedro Martinez was, and through the heart of the steroid era, mind you. An argument could be made that Pedro Martinez was the most dominant pitcher in baseball history at his peak, and that includes Sandy Koufax. Pedro Martinez had a longer peak than Sandy Koufax, a more dominant peak than Sandy Koufax, and he was better before his peak than Sandy Koufax. The only reason I have Sandy Koufax ranked higher than Pedro Martinez is because he's more iconic in the hobby, coming of age during the golden age of vintage cards. Also, he had 4 rings and established more dominance in the postseason than Pedro Martinez enjoyed. Therefore, Koufax is the more iconic player and has a higher status in the hobby than Pedro Martinez. However, all the metrics point to Pedro as being the more dominant player with the better career. And unlike Sandy Koufax, Pedro Martinez wasn't just a peak pitcher. He had impressive compiled totals, including an 83.9 WAR, career record of 219 and 100. That's a 687 winning percentage. Career ERA of 2.93, WHIP 1.054, and an ungodly 1.54 ERA+. In fact, I consider him the king of ERA+, which is a measure of adjusted dominance. Pedro Martinez exceeded a 200 ERA+ in 5 separate seasons. No one has ever done that before, including Koufax. And in fact, Koufax never exceeded a 200 ERA+ in a season. The only player with over 2,000 innings pitched with a higher ERA+ is currently pitching now, and his name is Clayton Kershaw. The period of time that really set Pedro apart was his run of dominance from 1997 to 2003, a period in which he compiled a 118 and 36 record, a 2.20 ERA, and a 213 ERA+ during that time. He had 1,761 strikeouts compared to 315 walks, and a 198 batting average against during that period. He was borderline unhittable during those years, about a 6 or 7 year span. In the year 2000, Pedro had the highest ERA+ ever recorded during a season with an ERA+ of 291. He also had an 11.7 WAR season that year. He won 3 Cy Young Awards. He was 5 times ERA champion. And really, the crowning achievement of Pedro's career was in 2004 when he led the Boston Red Sox to the World Series championship and once and for all ended the curse of the Bambino. Now, before we get into any Pedro items here, I want to say thank you to Adam from Splendid Sports. He reached out to me a couple weeks ago saying how he really wanted to be a part of this episode because, he's a lifelong Red Sox fan, and he tipped me off that he has a few Pedro Grail items that he'd love to show off during this episode. So I was honored, and without any further ado, let's see what Adam has for us here.
Hey, it's Adam from Splendid Sports. Al, thank you for allowing me to contribute to the iconic episode of the best pitcher that I ever watched, Pedro Martinez. My dad's generation, they had Sandy Koufax. We had Pedro. That's the way I look at it. Now, I did grow up a big Red Sox fan, so take that with a grain of salt. I may be biased, but I do have 4 of my favorite Pedro collectibles here to show. Number 1, he came up in the junk wax era, 1991. This is what most considered to be his true rookie card. This one has a little more rarity to it, being that it's a PSA 10 with a 10 auto. Now, then we enter the 90s insert era. And for me, the ultimate chase card was his PMG, Precious Metal Gem from 1998. I recently acquired it. Here it is. This was a grail card for me and really happy to have it. He had 2 years of PMG cards. 98 was his first, and then he had one in 99. My third is not a card, but a graded ticket. This is a gem mint copy of a ticket to the 1999 All-Star Game at Fenway Park. Reason I show this is, if you remember, Pedro was the MVP of this game. He struck out in 2 innings. He started the game, struck out 5 of the first 6 batters, completely dominant for the whole world to see. And it was unbelievable. Fenway Park was electric. Great memory. I was not there. I watched it on TV, but I do have a ticket. And lastly, we have 2020 Topps Transcendent. This is a Pedro autograph card. What I love about this card is the image of him pointing to the sky there. That is from the 2004 World Series. The Red Sox beat the Cardinals. They swept them. Pedro pitched Game 3, and he retired the last 14 batters he faced. He allowed no runs. He pitched 7 innings, and when he came off the mound after the 7th inning, striking out the batter, he pointed to the sky there. And this would be the last game that he ever pitched for the Red Sox. And the Red Sox would go on to break the curse and win the World Series after 86 years. What a great memory for me as a Red Sox fan and Pedro fan. Well, thanks, Al. Back to you.
All I can say is, wow, thank you so much, Adam, for sharing some of your best Pedro Martinez items. Some of those had yet to be shown on YouTube, so I am honored. Thank you. It's going to be a tough act to follow, but let's get into some of my Pedro Martinez items. First up, one of the cards overlaps with one that Adam showed. It's the 1991 Upper Deck Final Edition Pedro Martinez rookie card, so let's start with that. Now, this was, as Adam mentioned, Pedro's only rookie card, which came out during the high pop wax era, and the fact that it is his only rookie card is significant. If you just boil down the numbers, there are 4,410 PSA 10s, which on the surface sounds like a very, very high population card, which it is, when you compare it to, say, vintage or pre-war eras. But this is a high pop wax era, 1991, which is arguably the peak of when wax was printed. They pumped out so much volume in 1991 that 4,400 copies of a PSA 10 isn't ridiculous. Now, if you compare a guy like Pedro Martinez to a guy whose rookie card was the same year, say Chipper Jones, if you just add up the populations on Chipper Jones's 4 main rookie cards, he has rookie cards in Topps, Upper Deck, Score, and Bowman. Just PSA 10s of those cards, you add up the populations, you get about 12,277 PSA 10 rookie cards for Chipper Jones. So to put that in perspective, there's only about a third of the population for Pedro Martinez. So anyway, something to consider when looking at populations on a card like the Pedro rookie card. There is no other rookie card that is sort of fragmenting the market for Pedro rookie cards. This is it. This is kind of all there is. All right, moving on to the signed baseball. This is a really cool signed baseball, one of my favorites. Has Pedro on the sweet spot. He had signed his number 45 after his signature. And the thing that makes this baseball special, I mean, he's got a really nice autograph to begin with. But this is on a 2004 World Series baseball. This is the significant year, the year the curse fell. And that makes it even cooler in my mind. It's not just your standard MLB baseball. This is from the year that the Red Sox finally took down the curse. And Pedro Martinez was a very, very big part of that. And so that's a pretty cool piece. One of my historically favorite signed baseballs. And then last but not least, we have a 1996 Leaf signature bronze autograph of Pedro Martinez. This comes from an era just before his run of dominance really started. His first phenomenal year was 1997. This comes from 1996. So this is just before Pedro really took off and went parabolic in terms of his performance. So at the time that this was pulled, and this is pack pulled, this would not have been too significant of a card. You know, whoever pulled this was probably, meh, okay, this guy's pretty good, but not too big of a deal. But this set is significant in that it was really the first set of cards that were distributed in packs with the idea that you had one autographed card per pack. So this is a very premium release. And no one had ever done that before. Put an autographed card in every pack? Are you kidding me? Prior to that, autographs were chase cards. They were hard to get. They were not, regular pulls out of packs. And Leaf's signature changed the game. They were the first set of its kind to insert an autograph in every pack. And in addition to these bronze autographs, you had silver and gold, which were even more scarce. But Pedro signed a lot. Most of the guys that had bronze autographs signed, I'm not sure how many he signed, but probably more than 1,000, maybe about 1,000. And so this is actually maybe one of Pedro's most affordable early signatures, and this might be his first certified autograph. So that's pretty cool. I like early career signatures of guys like this, and one of my all-time favorites. Shows him on the Expos. So I have one item from the Dodgers, one item from the Expos, and one item from his Boston Red Sox days. So I try to diversify as best I can when I'm collecting items for guys. But that's what I have for Pedro. Truly one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball history. And again, I thank everyone. I thank Adam from Splendid Sports for your great contribution to this episode. And everyone, until next time, keep collecting and stay iconic.